President Biden says he's the most pro-union president in history. Is he?
Yes, and that UAW strike is not going to happen. It's too important to the U.S. Whether it happens with Biden, without Biden, or in spite of Biden, they've got to get that deal done for the economy purposes. It's a presidential election year coming up in 2024. I think they get it done.
Yeah, and the UAW has not endorsed yet. They're waiting to see how this goes and what Biden does.
Well, they don't like his electric mandates. So the fact that he wants, I believe, 62% of electric cars being electric vehicle in the next 10 years, that is profoundly unrealistic. The GOP candidate who is telling the best story about this is Vivek Ramaswamy. He's the one who sounded the clarion call. He started Strive Asset Management. He's called out the hypocrisy of the green climate cult in many ways that puts irrational beliefs. And who is going to pay for these irrational beliefs? The American worker.
It's the retraining and all of the wages in the electric vehicles.
And fewer jobs in the EV manufacturing.
Yes, they want to make sure that they're keeping jobs. And one thing I'll say, Democrats have wondered, why aren't union voters voting for us? You know, every election we get their big endorsements, and why don't they vote for us? Well, Biden is proving he's actually going to stand with the union workforce when they're striking. And he has, to the extent UPS,
and
Teamsters,
railway workers,
$170,000 a year.
But you still got the issue where leadership.
Bob Iger right now, though, the Hollywood writers are striking. Bob Iger is making 535 times the Disney median pay. You've got writers who can't feed your families. You know, if the Democrats actually did support labor like they have said that they could, then we could see pay inequities decreased, and that, I think, is Bidenomics working.
Come back to the original question. I think FDR, who I'm pretty sure was Biden's roommate in college, was probably more pro-union. Like, that was a good one.
Listen, Robert.
FDR was anti-public.
Stop that.
That's
probably true.
We're not supposed to laugh.
As Robert reported, there are fewer and fewer fewest union members than any time in the history of unions. So why is it so important? Why does he have to go to Philadelphia?
Come back to what we talked about in the last segment, which is the election is going to turn on the kitchen table issues, inflation and wages and so forth, okay? Remember when we had a difficulty with inflation 2 years ago? It was the unions in Long Beach. Then we were worried about the unions at the railroads going on strike. If we have more strikes and they lead to increased inflation, it's not going to make any difference how pro-union Joe Biden is going to be. The rank-and-file members will vote for Trump, just like they did in 2016 and 2020, even though the fact that the leadership will be pro-Democrat.
Well, and the fact of the matter is the electric jobs are not going to the U.S. That's the other problem. They're going to China. China is manufacturing the EVs. China is manufacturing the components for EVs. Biden refuses to allow the drilling here at home for the critical minerals. He refuses to allow leasing on federal land. You also have the Hanwha Korean Q cells, which are producing components that are completely bypassing federal law that prohibits the use of Uyghur forced labor. Biden administration is looking the other way. And so all these jobs are going to be lost to China, to the Koreans, and they're going to be using forced Uyghur labor.
That's conjecture, though.
It's happening. It's not conjecture. It's happening right now.
There are a lot of joint ventures, EV battery building going on in Michigan, too, with the South Koreans.
Exactly. But it's a very small percentage.
We got to move on. 10 days for that strike deadline. We're going to keep an eye on that. Okay.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.